You may have the beginnings of a medicinal herb garden and not even realize it. Many of the flowers and plants that we grow in our landscape can also be used as medicinal herbs. Right now, they're dormant, but I have calendula, and I have stinging nettle, and I have echinacea growing in this area. These all fall into the category of medicinal herbs, and there are many more. This year, I'm expanding throughout my landscape and growing many, many more. Join me today as I discuss how to get started growing a medicinal herb garden. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and this is one of my elderberry bushes. I planted it a couple years ago because I love making elderberry jelly. Over there I have some yarrow. Yarrow is a wonderful plant to attract pollinators to the garden. And over there I've got chamomile. Chamomile is a lovely little white flower that makes delicious tea. Now, I have different purposes for all of these plants in my garden, in addition to the calendula and the stinging nettle and the echinacea. I also have sage and oregano and rosemary. These are all typical garden plants, but specifically, they can be grown as medicinal plants. You may have noticed that it's cold and snowy in my garden right now. This is the time of year that I do most of my gardening indoors as I begin planning what the growing season will look like. And this year, my growing season is going to include many more of the medicinal plants. I'm going to be relying on this ultimate medicinal herb collection from Survival Garden Seeds. It has 36 heirloom seed packets in it. Now, right up front, I am not a health care provider. I'm not going to give you any specific advice on how to use these plants. This is completely up to you. But there's a lot of information out there, like this one from Heather Dale, Grow Your Own Herbal Medicine. And this one, Rosemary Gladstar's Medicinal Herbs, A Beginner's Guide. These books have great information in them on not only how to grow some of these plants, but also how to use them looking to that medicinal aspect. And even though it's winter and I'm not actively growing anything right now, well, I can still have my chamomile tea because I dried the flowers, and I can still use the mint and the sage for the properties that they can bring, and I can use them for some of those properties that they can bring beyond just seasoning our food or looking pretty in the garden. And it begins with these 36 seed packets. Looking at these packets, I see a number of plants I'm already growing in my garden for other purposes, like the cayenne pepper that I use a lot in cooking. Calendula is wonderful for bringing in the beneficial insects. I have oregano that I'm using in my diet, along with basil and fennel and chamomile. So many of these are things that we're growing. The hyssop, I have a few varieties of this. Again, great for attracting pollinators. My front yard is loaded with lamb's ear. I have peppermint. I have mullein that's actually native to this area, but I think I'll give this a try. I've got marigolds in my garden. I grow lemon balm and lavender and sage, and I've got borage just outside the bed with my stinging nettle. But all these other plants are new to the garden, and these are the ones I'm going to be focusing on as I add to the rest of these that are medicinal plants. I think it's important to turn to a source like Rosemary Gladstar when beginning to use your plants medicinally. For me, this is a relatively new area. Now, I like my chamomile tea. I find it soothing and relaxing, but According to Rosemary, the pharmacopoeias of 26 countries have approved chamomile to treat conditions ranging from colic and indigestion to muscle spasms, tension, inflammation, and infection. So now that I know this and I'm learning more, I can look at my chamomile tea a little bit differently. I grow my elder plants because I love making elderberry jelly. Well, as I look about the medicinal uses of the elder flowers and elderberries, they have immune enhancing properties and are often combined with echinacea, which I already grow, in immune stimulating remedies for colds. Now, you can go to the store and you can buy echinacea in pill form to fight off the common cold. Why not grow it yourself and combine it with some of these other plants and achieve the same thing? And that's the idea behind growing a medicinal herb garden. There are plants like this toothache plant. It's an herb that is known for its flower buds that numb the mouth when eaten. Now, I've never grown this and I've never eaten any of those buds, but I do know gardeners in my garden club who swear by this, and they grow it to numb their gums when they have a toothache. All of these plants have some medicinal aspect to them, and that's why we consider growing them for those benefits. Lemon balm is used as a remedy for stomach distress and nervous exhaustion, and also functions as a mild sedative helpful for insomnia. Marshmallow is specific for treating inflamed and irritated tissues of the respiratory system, digestive system, and skin. Mullein is an antispasmodic and an expectorant. Stinging nettle is full of vitamins, especially iron and calcium, and has antihistamine properties, making it excellent remedy for allergies and hay fever. The common plantain draws toxicity from the body and has been used as a remedy for blood poisoning. And here's yarrow. It has antiseptic and anti-inflammatory and astringent properties and is highly regarded for healing wounds, bruises, and sprains. Now, again, I can't speak as an authority on these medicinal properties of the plants. I can speak as a gardener, and I can tell you, and I think just about all these plants can grow in your garden. I have a challenging Colorado climate. Very hot, dry summers, very cold winters, and I'm already growing many of these plants. My herb garden flourishes every year. As long as you provide a location with plenty of sun, at least 6 hours a day, a nice, rich, free, draining soil, then these plants should do fine in your garden. You can grow them as I do with my calendula and my echinacea as a pretty plant that brings in beneficial insects. Or you can start looking at a recognized expert like Rosemary Gladstar to see if maybe there's a medicinal property to these plants that you've overlooked. And this is a wonderful book. She talks all about making teas and salves and tinctures, because not all of these plants are intended to be ingested. One of the plants I grow in my garden is comfrey. I use it to make liquid fertilizer for my plants, but it also has chemicals that can heal the skin. It used to be known as knit bone because of those healing properties. And you can find ointments and salves and liniments sold around the world using the comfrey plant. It used to be used by some people internally, but it's been found to have some toxins that can damage the liver. So as you move forward and consider some of the medicinal aspects of these plants, do try to reference as new information as possible in determining what you're going to use, because some of the older brochures say that you can ingest something like comfrey, but that's no longer advised. And relying on something like Rosemary Gladstar's book is a good start. And the Survival Garden Seeds collection is another great way to begin, because there are so many plants in these books that you don't know how to begin. I think beginning with a seed packet is a wonderful way to start. The seed packets have a lot of helpful information when you're not sure what to grow. First off, it'll often have a picture of the plant and flower on it. For this valerian, it tells me that the plants will grow 3 to 5 feet tall with attractive, sweet-scented pink flower clusters. I've grown valerian before. It's a beautiful plant. I should start the seeds indoors and keep the temperature steady until germination, which will take 14 to 21 days. The plants should be spaced 12 to 24 inches apart. And then as far as saving the seeds, I should let the plants flower and then form those seed capsules and harvest those capsules after they've begun to dry. The stinging nettle tells me that I should sow anytime from late fall to early spring. That's because these seeds need cold stratification. And if you sow them during the winter months outside, the weather will take care of those conditions. But if seeds do not overwinter, cold stratify for 2 to 4 weeks prior to planting. That means putting the seeds in your refrigerator. And then to save the seed, you allow the flowers to mature and form the seed heads on the plants. This chervil should be sown in early spring or late summer. They like cooler temperatures, so you grow them early when the temperatures are cool or late in the season into fall, because they prefer those cool temperatures. And then again, you harvest the seed heads when they're dry and brittle. I like getting a collection like this when I'm trying to figure out just exactly what I'm going to grow, because while I can read this book and look at some of the plants that sound interesting and then go to a catalog and order these individually, that can actually cost more money than a collection. These 36 seed packets work out to just over $1 per packet. That's unheard of, because if I were to order the seed packets individually, I'd probably be paying at least $3 or $4 each. If you're not interested in 36, Survival Garden Seeds also has an 18 seed packet. But I like growing a lot of plants, and this year I want to grow a lot of plants I've never grown before. And so having the seed packets in front of me makes it really easy to say, this black cumin, I've never even heard of it before, but it looks nice, sounds like I can do it. So directly outdoors in early spring, I can do that. So sold. I'm going to grow this in my garden. I'm definitely going to grow the valerian in my garden. Some of these are already growing, but I don't have mugwort, and I don't have any more of the feverfew or the horehound. These are plants that I think are relatively difficult to find if you do see them in a book and do try to get them individually. But where else are you going to find the wormwood to grow in your garden? Or some of these others like hoary stock. I don't even know that one. So my garden planning is already well underway with these dozen or so plants that I've already decided on. I love chamomile, but I ran out of seed. This is perfect. The anise and the catnip, they're going to find a way into the garden. I've grown borage in my backyard, might as well add it to the front yard. There's so many plants here to choose from that I think the hard part's going to be finding a spot for everything. Of these 36 seed packets, I'm probably going to grow 15, maybe 20 of them this year. And that'll work out to about $1.50 per seed packet, a bargain. And the seed packets I don't grow this year, I can use next year. They should remain completely viable for another year without any issues. Now, deciding to plant a garden, specifically a medicinal garden, can be a bit of a challenge because you look at a book and you think you're going to try some of these plants that they're recommending, and you're not sure about the seeds, you're not sure where you're going to put them. These are nice because you don't have to have a dedicated garden area. You don't have to have just medicinal garden beds. These plants are suitable throughout the landscape. As I already showed, that's what I'm doing. Growing those plants and then choosing to use them medicinally now, or choosing the plants for medicinal purposes and then deciding where you're going to put them in the landscape. They're very versatile. They give you a lot of options, and it's definitely something to think about. And as I grow and harvest these plants, I'm going to be making some of those salves and tinctures, and definitely the tea. This is one of my favorites, and you can expect that I will be making videos about the process of using all of this medicinally. To begin, check out the chamomile video right here. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening. And fennel and chamomile, so many of these are things that we're growing. The hyssop, I have a few varieties.